Flosstube. My name is Becca, and I am SamBrie Stitches here on Flosstube and Instagram. And this is another special edition of Interview with a Flosstuber. Today, I am very excited to be here with Shannon. Her channel is called The Soda Stitcher, and it's pretty new, but it is so good. She kicked it off with a lot of enabling. She kicked it off with a whip parade and then a kitted parade. So definitely going to need a pen and paper for those videos. It's a nice way to kick it off, just a whole bunch of enabling.
Yeah.
I just really enjoy seeing what she's stitching, and she's just so kind and loving and caring, and it just comes through in her videos. And we see Peppers, which is in the background as well.
I can't guarantee she won't bark.
That's okay. My dogs bark too, so we're all good. But I'll be linking her information down below, so you could definitely go check out her channel and her Instagram as well. But how are you doing today, Shannon?
I'm good. It finally cooled down. It has been so hot here in Minnesota, like 100 degrees, which is not normal, and super dry out. Today it's a little cooler. So it's a good day because I'm a winter girl. I'm a fall and winter girl. I love my snow. I love my cold weather. So this hot is
It's supposed to get like 80s or something next week for us. And when I did my last interview, it rained on me. So I'm happy with the weather today too.
Yeah, I did see that.
So we're good. All right, well, let's jump into the questions. The first one is, why did you start a Flosstube, and were there any particular motivations?
Well, I had a lot, maybe not a lot, but quite a few people being like, Shannon, why don't you start a Flosstube? You need to start a Flosstube. And I was just, and for months, and I've just been hemming and hawing about it. And I knew it would take a lot of time and energy. And, I completely already, understood from hearing other people the time it takes to do this. But I had one of my stitchy friends was like, Shannon, you are a huge part of the stitchy community on Instagram. Like, you need to be sharing your things and all of the stuff and what you're doing. And just, I guess my personality, like, you need to do a Flosstube. So I was like, all right, I'll try. And then I'm like, well, maybe I should start with whips. And then one of my other friends was like, yeah. So I did. Second video was, like you said, kitted projects. Like you said, people have commented, you're enabling me. This is awesome. Like, I'm going to do this project, which is cool. Cause I'm like, Stitch, I like, we don't see things all the time unless somebody posts about it. So it's like, yeah. And so then my third video is just kind of an update. I do need to record all of my finishes. I want to kind of do in one video. So that'll be upcoming, or maybe up by the time this view or, airs. But so I did, and I actually really love it. I do. It was, you kind of get giddy, geeky in the beginning watching your numbers grow, because you're just, it's new to you, right? And I'm like, oh my God, I hit 500. What? Like, and then I'm like, oh my God, I'm at 1,000. Like, what? Then I got to 1,500, and I'm like, this is insane in 2 weeks. Like, this is crazy. Never expected it. Like, but my heart like overflowed. Like, I'm so thankful to everybody who watches me, because you're iffy at the beginning, like, people gonna like me, or people gonna watch me, or people gonna subscribe? Am I gonna waste my time? I'm like, not that it's a waste of time, but like I said, all the energy and time you put into it, you want people to like it, right? So so now I'm like at almost 1850. And I'm really planning for a big celebration for 2000. I think 2000 is a big number, but also, like, just to say thank you to everybody, because I would have never imagined, one of my 4 weeks in, having that many subs. Like, so I love it. I actually really enjoy it. So
We started off with many good things. The whip parade was a good one to start off with, because everybody loves a good whip parade.
Yes.
And then you have enough, friends in the community where, they were shouting you out and helping you out. And that's where the community really rallies together, especially for new Flosstubers, or Flosstubers under 1,000 subscribers, because of the hashtag. So that's where the community really shines. It's just the support of fellow Stitchers, which is awesome. So I'm glad you're doing so well. I know we were messaging back and forth. It was so exciting to watch your numbers.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh, you say this. But yeah, I mean, to the people that shouted me out, like, so thankful from the bottom of my heart. Like, you're right. I mean, this word of mouth and, you know, people being brought to you, because YouTube wouldn't do it alone, right? I mean, maybe they'll feature your video, maybe they won't. But yeah, I've just gotten a lot of good feedback in the comments, and just, I guess I'm a Flosstuber now.
Flosstuber, welcome to the community. It's pretty awesome. So we'll move on to the next one. And this was just a subscriber question, and they were just wondering if you have a blog.
I do not. I like 15 years ago, I was an avid blogger, like daily. Close it down. I mean, I don't even have access to any of it anymore, sadly, but I don't know. I love Instagram. I feel like that's kind of a blog, you know, you're sharing all the time, and we always are very detailed in what we are working on and what we're using and stuff like that. So, I mean,
I just wish Instagram had like a search function for what you've posted, so that instead of scrolling back 3 years to see something.
I know.
Yeah, but it's a pretty neat community as well. So
yeah.
So how did you learn to stitch, and how long have you been stitching?
So I think I remember I had to be maybe 5, 6, 7-ish in that time of my life. There was a store that had like groceries on, like general store type items on one side, had like a meat counter and that type of stuff, and then one side was like quilting and crafts.
Oh, strange.
It was very strange, but we're talking, you know, back in the early 80s, right? So kind of your one-stop shop type thing. Yeah. And they had one of those turny carousel type hook thingies, and they had little cross stitch kits on there. And every time we went in there, I always walked over there and had to look at them. And we didn't have money, not much at all. And I think, you know, maybe it was just a couple of dollars, but at that point and back then, and it's a lot of money. So I think, you know, eventually, I don't remember how long or anything like that. I just remember looking at it several times that I finally got one. And I was trying to remember, did my parents buy it for me, or did my grandparents buy it for me? Because we used to go there with them too. Mm-hmm. I can't recall that, but it was just like a little tiny kit that came with a frame, and it was a little pink ice cream cone. Oh, yeah. And I wish I still had it. I have a bin of like my stuff that my mom like saved for me, and it's not in there. I mean, maybe it's at my mom's somewhere. I highly doubt it. I'm sure it's gone, but so I stitched that, figured it out all on my own by the directions. And then I was in Girl Scouts, and I remember stitching something too, but I can't recall what it was or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I got into my teenage years, didn't do anything like that. And then it was like late high school, early college. I started cross stitching with a friend of mine who I lived with, and we stitched all the Precious Moments stuff. And I still have those. I still have like a stack of them. They're never framed. They're just kind of in a bin. I don't know what I'll ever do with them. I mean, I'm not going to put them on my walls now. At least I don't think I would. But, and then around that time too, I stitched the Monopoly board when that had come out. Now it's very hard to find, very expensive if you can find it. And I actually just had it framed like a few weeks ago, finally, 30 years later. So yeah, it's on my wall now. It's kind of crazy that my husband's like, that's really cool. Like we've been married almost 23 years. And he's like, you never framed that? Well, we were raising kids, and, you know, that wasn't a priority to spend money on and whatever. And then early 2002, it was in 2002. So that would have been like 93 to 95 when I did all that stuff. And then 2002, I was at probably Hobby Lobby or something like that, and I found the Dimensions Gold kit, Lost No More. It's the one with Jesus and the sheep and stuff like that. And my husband's parents were very avid, whatever you call it, Catholics, go to every mass on every holiday, like every Sunday, every time during the week when there's more, Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to stitch that for them for Christmas. Well, this was like in May, June. So I stitched it and finished it by Christmas.
What? A gold?
Yeah. Mind you, back then it was monogamous stitching, right? Like I didn't have anything else that I was working on, but I remember like literally my neighbors had a pool, my kids go swimming, I bring it over there and stitch. Like I literally was stitching all the time. And so I gave it to them and they like literally loved it. They were speechless. They have since passed on. My husband was the youngest out of 8 kids and his mom had 8 kids in 11 years. So he was young. I would think his parents were in their 40s when they had him. So, they've been gone. His dad died a couple of years ago. His mom died probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I do have it back and it's on my wall in my hallway back there now. So it's really fun to have that back. And then over the time between like 2002 until about 2019, I dabbled in a little bit. I had some whips that I didn't know were called whips back then, that I never really finished. Again, raising kids, that wasn't a priority type thing. And then back in, I think it was 2019, I really started, I think it was like in 2018, I started kind of dabbling in embroidery and really enjoyed that too. And then I was like seeing more like cross stitch stuff posted on Instagram. I'm like, well, I didn't know that there was such a thing as like not buying a kit.
Right? Yeah, if you're in an area where there's no local needle workshop or anything, all you have are kits from the big box stores.
Yep. And that's all I knew. And then I was like, well, wait, what's this? Like, that's just like the chart or pattern. I think I called it pattern. Like, you have to buy everything separately. Like, oh my gosh, that's hard. Like, but, it took me a couple weeks before my stash started growing and it's, 2 years later now. And it's like history.
Yep. That's usually you get that first pattern and you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome.
I know. It's so cool. Oh, and I should say too, going back, I think it was in maybe 2000, if I remember correctly, 2013, I found the Dimensions Gold Kit Aurora cabin.
Oh yeah.
And I'm obsessed with, like, I love the Northern Lights because I grew up in central Minnesota. Back then, we saw the Northern Lights on occasion. We lived out in the country in the middle of nowhere. There's no lights, no cities or anything like that. And we would see them occasionally. So I would, like, as a young kid, I remember just like laying in the grass watching them. And so when I saw that, I started stitching that and it's still a whip. I did the 25/7 in May and I made a bunch of progress, but then I had to put it away for a little bit. I didn't want to like burn myself out. Yeah. But actually recently I was asking my aunt who lived next door to us, I'm like, do you ever see the Northern Lights anymore? And she's like, no. And I'm like, that is so sad. Like, because we grew up right next to them in the country. And she's like, no, we never see them anymore. And I'm sure the atmosphere's changed, things have changed, but like literally it's my dream to go to Iceland or somewhere that I can see them again someday. So
that would be amazing. At least you got to experience that though. That's on my bucket list because I see pictures and oh my gosh. Breathtaking.
So cool. And I remember them always being green when I saw them. So I didn't have maybe more colors. I can't remember, but I remember green vividly. But that was a long answer. Sorry. I'm a talker.
Definitely learn more about you. So no. Yeah. But let's move on to the next question, which is, this is one of my favorites. It's, what's your favorite project that you've stitched so far?
I have a couple. I would say my very favorite is Black and Sky by the Primitive Needle. I'm obsessed with all of her work. I've done a couple of hers. I've done Hoodoo Voodoo because of my love for New Orleans and stuff like that. So I did that when it's framed on my wall, which I'll show during my finish video. But I did bring Black and Sky out to show you guys.
Love it.
Yeah. It was stitched on 40 count B Stitch Me Outback Jack, I believe. And I used the called for NPI silks.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I just because I wanted to stitch it so bad, and I did find somebody that borrowed me their copies, so I was super thankful. Um,
That's so cool. Yeah. Again, the community comes through with all the like out of print charts and stuff like that.
yeah, and even somebody borrowed me their Hoodoo Voodoo as well, so I know it's super cool. And then the other one that I like just love stitching and loving on my wall, which is next to Hoodoo Voodoo and Black and Sky, is Bendy Stitchy's Rolodex Morning Sampler with Carla Rolodex Stitcher. I love everything willow trees too. And I have a willow tree tattoo. And we actually have a big enough yard. We moved to this house a year and a half ago, and we have a huge backyard, and I was able to finally plant a willow tree. So
I had
yeah.
one grow in my backyard. They're just awesome trees.
Oh man, they're so beautiful. And so the willow tree, and I love cemeteries. I love like all the New Orleans cemeteries. I love, when I lived in Michigan, there was a lot of like big ginormous tombs, like family tombs. So I just love going to cemeteries too. But so that was just like the perfect piece for me.
That's a really good piece. I love that Carla had a part in that. So
Yeah, absolutely.
well, looking forward to seeing your finishes in your too.
Yeah, soon.
So what do you enjoy most about stitching?
Well, I love kitting things up. I love the process. I love seeing the progress. But I think above all of that, oh, and I love the collecting.
The collecting? That's yeah.
Real. I think above all that, it just brings me so much comfort and peace. I suffer from some pretty severe anxiety and depression and panic attacks. And I've been dealing with it for years and just kind of like making progress and getting better. But COVID didn't help anything. And then I got really sick with COVID, and I'm considered a long hauler now. I've said that in my videos. But I think like literally, I think back, what if I wasn't stitching? Like literally, I would go crazy out of my mind. I think my depression and anxiety would have been so much worse because it takes your mind off things and it brings you just this pride, of wow, I did that, or oh my gosh, look at that come to life. And so I think that above all, it's just mentally what it's done for me.
I completely understand. I have never really suffered from anxiety or depression, but the past year with COVID and being in the lockdown and everything, I started to experience that and having anxiety attacks due to a job change kind of a thing. And I completely understand that with stitching, it helps you just meditate and stay focused, and your mind doesn't wander because you're counting and you're looking at the pattern, and it's so therapeutic. It's funny because like people who see me stitching, whether it's on break at work or at the car shop getting my oil changed, they're like, I don't have the patience for that, or I don't understand. I'm like, how can you say that? Like,
Yeah. You've never tried it.
it shocks me. So I completely understand how therapeutic it is. It's amazing. Oh, love it.
Yeah.
And then to think that we made that, and then years from now, like how we have the reproduction samplers that we see the originals. Ours are hopefully going to be like that. Some of our samplers.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be really cool. I know I've oftentimes thought about doing a spot sampler like Michelle Bendy, because then it would be my own, and you could note that on there in letters. Like I've thought about doing it. I have so many samplers that like literally I'm never going to get them stitched in my lifetime. I would like to, but so I've been thinking about doing that. I just need to like really kind of plan it out, figure out what fabric so maybe this winter I'll kind of tackle something like that. But I think that would be so rewarding too.
Yeah, I think that's really neat. That's why I bought that Brenda Keys book, the sampler book, I actually used it for one of the samplers that I customized that I just finished, but I think that would be really neat just to create your own sampler to pass on generation to generation. So
Yes. Yes.
I think I might do that too now that you.
Let's do it, Sal.
That would be pretty cool just to start designing and then stitching it. Oh, I didn't even.
Or even just like going, like, you can design, pull some things out, do those, and then you see things and just add them. Like, it doesn't even need to be totally planned either. I mean, I do have one in mind that I want it to be in the center already, so it's kind of planned.
Yeah, but that's a good starting point is the center, and then you can just branch out from there. So that's cool. I do that too. I love that.
Yeah.
Now you've inspired.
Let's do it, everybody. Let's do it.
Reading our own samplers. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to get out of stitching, talk a little bit. We're going to get to know you a little bit better. And this is, what's your favorite genre of book or movie?
So I typically like general fiction, nothing like, my favorite author is Diane Chamberlain. I've read most of her books. I actually do more audiobooks than physically reading, because I can do that when I'm stitching, or car rides and stuff like that. But Diane Chamberlain's amazing. I don't compare her with like Jodi Picoult or anything like that. They're very different, but along that same genre line, like, if that makes sense. I also love Kristen Hanna. She's also in that same genre. And then I do like things that are like suspenseful, not necessarily like, I don't know how to say, like you don't know what's going to happen at the end, or something happens to somebody and who did it kind of thing, but not like, I don't like Agatha Christie or anything. Like, my favorite author in that genre is Sherry LaPena, and she's got 5 books out, and I've already listened to all of them. So I do really enjoy that. And then what was the other one? Movies. I'm not a huge movie person, but I do have favorites that I will watch over and over and over. I'm not one to like go to the theaters if something new comes out or anything like that, unless it's something that's like suspenseful that my sisters and I want to go to, or, whatever. But I'll talk about this a little bit later, but one of my favorite movies is New in Town, Renee Zellweger, and I always forget the name of him. Harry Connick is in there, Harry Connick Jr. And I'll share that a little bit more. That's an answer in one of my other things. I, from a very young age, I've always watched the National Lampoon's Vacation movies, obsessed with those. I just have favorites. I watch Titanic over and over, stuff like that. What was some other ones? I don't know, but I'm not just like I don't really watch comedy stuff at all.
Nice. Yeah. Kind of everything. I'm not a big movie person, I guess, either. I'll watch movies if my husband puts one on. He likes, the military and the fighting and all that kind of stuff. Drama. So I'll watch those. But other than that, I don't do much movies either. So
yeah.
So I think that leads into this next question: is what fictional place would you most like to go to?
This is where I'm going to talk about New in Town. So New in Town is a movie that's based on stereotypical Minnesota. My dad's got the Minnesota Fargo accent. I mean, like, it's funny. He's full of like Ole and Lena jokes, which is a total Minnesota thing too. But New in Town is basically a movie about this big wig executive from Florida that comes to Minnesota to like repurpose this Land O'Lakes plant in New Ulm, Minnesota. And she comes in the dead of winter, and it's just hilarious. The characters in that movie are very stereotypical Minnesota. Like I said, it's based on New Ulm, Minnesota. And I used to live in Mankato, so like a half hour from New Ulm. I've been there many times. It was filmed in Winnipeg, Canada. So it doesn't look anything like New Ulm. I know, right? Yeah. I'm like, New Ulm, Minnesota is actually pretty cool. It's a big German town, and it's actually really cool. But I think that they probably filmed it in Canada because they needed it to be very, very wintry. In southern Minnesota,
Oh, sure.
yeah, I mean, you get storms and stuff like that, but it's not like that blustery like you would get in the north.
Yeah,
But the characters, so my answer to this is where would I like to go fictional place? I would love to go to New Ulm as based in the movie and hang out with Blanche Gunderson and Trudy Van Houten and eat tapioca and meatloaf, and it would just be fun. And they scrapbook, they make minis, and
check this movie out because you're so passionate about
you have to, like, literally, if you I think it's just because like my dad grew up in central Minnesota. He was, they talked like that a lot back. A lot of the farmers or, people that have been in that area still have that. And in fact, when I lived in Michigan, you didn't hear people talk about that in where I lived. It wasn't in the UP or anything, but like literally friends of mine would be like, can we call your dad? Because we want to hear him talk. Like,
that's awesome.
and it's true. I mean, he can turn it on. He can really turn it on like I just did too. So it's not like day to day. I mean, you can hear it. You can hear the O's in my voice too. But when he can turn it on. Or if he's with people that do really talk like that, then you can hear him and it's funny.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to hear your dad talk now too. You need to do a clip and put it in your next video or one of your
Well, I will. He is so funny. He's a great, great guy.
So cool. So if you could choose to do anything for a day, what would it be?
I will probably, travel. We obviously haven't traveled a lot. We're at a point in life where we can travel more and stuff like that. But then with COVID, we haven't done anything. But like I mentioned earlier, I love like New Orleans is my place. I love New Orleans, and my husband hasn't been there. I went with my sisters in February of 2019, right before COVID hit. So I'm super thankful for that trip. But I want to bring my husband. I want him to be able to experience New Orleans. And I think that he's always wanted to go during Mardi Gras. So I think sometime in our life, we will be there on Fat Tuesday. I don't know when. And I went with my sisters. That was a blast. I'd love to go with my kids someday. My sisters and I, and my daughter, now that she will be 22 in July. We've talked about bringing her now because she can drink. And so, not that we drink a lot, but you want to try the voodoo daiquiris and all of the daiquiris all over and all of the, the hand grenade drink. And so, you want to taste and experience all of that. So now that she's old enough, that would be real cool.
Well, that's cool. That sounds like an amazing, amazing trip.
Yeah. And the cemeteries are cool, and just the culture and the swamps, and, it's all just very beautiful in my eyes.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard amazing things. And Colleen Rebel Stitcher talks about, New Orleans and all that kind of stuff in her videos too, which is kind of neat. I think she stitched one of the trees.
Yes.
Yeah, that she
live oak trees. I know. So, I hadn't started cross stitching back in early 2019. It was more in probably September, October-ish. Mm-hmm. And there is a shop outside of New Orleans that has a lot of local cross stitch. Yep. And I do know that they have one of Oak Alley Plantation, and that's the plantation that is most famous, where they have the trees going over the driveway, the big live oak trees, and the big, beautiful pillar white plantation house. I know that they have that. They have a lot of different ones. So when I go back, I'll definitely be visiting that.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Awesome. So do you happen to have any other hobbies besides cross stitch?
Well, Well, I listen to audiobooks a lot and podcasts. I love true crime, and I'm a true crime junkie. So I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts. I watch like everything true crime on TV. Like it's always on. And I also love reality TV. I'm a big Bachelorette person and Big Brother. And recently, well, and then too, like I love watching, I don't watch like House Hunters and that stuff anymore, but there's one that I found on Discovery Plus called Buying the Bayou, and it's people in Mississippi and the eastern part of Texas and Louisiana, and where they are actually looking for properties in the bayou, and so that, like, I just love those types of shows. I'm not really into cooking shows and stuff like that, but just a lot of true crime and kind of reality. I do like a couple series, like The Resident I love, and I'm a Handmaid's Tale fan. And on Netflix, I love Virgin River. So, I mean, I do get kind of into some of that. So I love TV, probably too much so, but I love TV. And then the other thing that I really enjoy that I don't know if people truly consider it a hobby is that I love bubble tea. It's originated out of Taiwan, and it's the little tapioca pearls that are in milk tea. It's tea with a milk base, or most of the time it's made with non-dairy creamer. And so I do love visiting a lot of new shops to try their various bubble teas. I'm going to go to a new one on Monday. I'm excited about that. And then too, I do make it at home from time to time. So I do enjoy that process, which I guess is kind of a hobby, right?
Like cooking and baking is a hobby, so why not?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and that's kind of outside the box type of hobby, which is really neat. But
yeah. They call, I don't know if I mentioned this, they call, typically in the tea shops, they call the bubbles, the tapioca pearls, they call them Boba. And I have one of my favorite YouTubers from San Francisco, and they have like a huge population of shops, of tea shops, and she's always vlogging and stuff. That's always fun. But we have quite a few that have popped up in the Twin Cities area in the last couple of years. Haven't been able to go. I think I've been to one just because of COVID, but we also have one about 25 minutes from my house in the main town that I live by. So that's very good too. So
that's cool. Well, you'll have the next year or so planned out. If there's somebody to visit, you could as well.
My sisters and daughter and I have talked about just doing a boba tour in the Twin Cities. There's a lot in Minneapolis, St. Paul, some in the suburbs, and just getting smalls, and each of us order different things, and I'll try the different things and take pictures and video and that stuff. So we do want to do that eventually. We just got to plan it.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
So this is one of my favorites. It's, how would your friends describe you?
I actually asked my sisters because they are also my best friends. And my one sister, her name is Chantel. She was like, I'm horrible at adjectives. I'm like, but she goes, but here we go. She said detail oriented, which I am. I've never been diagnosed with OCD, but I'm very, very particular about a lot of things. I like things organized. I like things just so. And caring, motherly. Chantel is actually, I was 17 when she was born. So I've always kind of been a little mother to her. In a way, she went everywhere with her. People thought she was my child because I was 17, she went with me everywhere. And now she's a new mom herself, her daughter. Both of my sisters have babies that are 9 days apart, August 12th and August 21st. So they have, my other sister, Sheena, was already a mom. She's got a 14-year-old, but Chantel's now a mom herself. So it's just been super fun to see, her be motherly now. And I go to her for advice now, even though I'm 17 years older than her, so kind of goes around. She also said I'm dedicated, friendly, and creative. I kind of am I creative? I don't think I'm real good at like figuring things out. Like I could never be a designer. I could never like paint something, but I don't know. Maybe I guess I am. And then what was that?
I was like, I think you're creative. Cross stitch is creative and you finish. So
yeah, true. And then my sister Sheena said, I'm honest, loyal, friendly, and talented. And I guess I am. I'm very loyal to the people that I love, but if something bothers me the wrong way, I'm not going to deal with it. So
understandable.
Yeah.
Your sisters seem like they adore you and think the world of you. So that's pretty cool.
And I have an incredible sister-in-law, brother as well, that they're amazing too. So I should mention them as well.
In case they watch this.
Probably won't, but you never know.
Oh, that's awesome. So we're going to get back into stitching a little bit. And this is, how do you prefer to stitch? Do you use a hoop, a Q-snap, a frame, that kind of stuff?
Okay. So I always use a Q-snap. I have tried stitching a hand a couple times. I feel like I'm not coordinated enough for it. Or I just don't want to take the time to practice. When I did do it, I felt like my stitches didn't look great. So I'm just a Q-snap girl. I probably always will be. I do have a couple scroll frames. I have one of my mirrors on a scroll frame. And then I use an artisan design Elon lap stand. The reason why I chose that one is because you can use it with a Q-snap easily. I mean, I don't know about others. I kind of researched a couple of others, but I do use that almost all the time, because before I would hold my like Q-snap with my left hand and it'd be kind of tilted, and then, stitching, because I'm right-handed, and my neck, I started having big issues with my neck, like many massages and chiropractic appointments later. I mean, it still flares up. So I have to be very diligent about like keeping my head straight. And I'm trying to train myself more to use my bifocals instead of going like this. So I'm still learning, but yeah, so I do use those. And then I do have you can see it right there. It's a big daylight lighted magnifier. It clamps onto my table. I probably could stitch without it now that I have bifocals, but I get eye strain very easily. So, I mean, why suffer, right? Yeah. The downfall is it's hard to take anything anywhere to stitch. I mean, we have a camper on a property up north, and I do have a lighted magnifier up there too. So I have one for both locations, and then the other thing, fabric. I prefer linen. I do have some like Lugana and quite a bit of Ada, but I prefer 36 or 40 count linen the most. I like using one strand of floss. So I do have one project that's on 32. It's actually on 16 count, I think, if I remember correctly. And I'm only using one strand because I wanted more of a muted look. But yeah, 36 and 40, and thus the magnifier.
Yeah, 40 count. Woo.
This is on 40 count. This was my first experience with 40 count, and I'm just like.
But it looks great. Yeah, I do, because I'm Ada only, so I'll do the 20 count, and I don't think I've touched it since I started. I did the border on a small piece, and I was like, yeah.
You use 18 count, right?
Yeah, I typically stitch on 18 count with one strand, but I like the idea of 16 count with one strand, because you might be able to pull that off if the holes, because you know how some dye, the holes are smaller than some of the ones. So I might have to, I got rid of a lot of my 16 count, but I might have to try that and see if I like it.
Definitely.
So where is your favorite place that you've traveled, and did you bring stitching along when you went?
Like I already said, New Orleans is my favorite place. However, my husband and I have a lot of different places we want to visit. We want to go to Northern California, Oregon, Seattle, do that whole thing.
Come in Seattle and visit.
Yep. I know I have so many people in Pacific Northwest to visit. I'm like, I need just a day. So you do something. Yeah. So we have a lot of plans. Well, I mean, I've been to several different places. But I mean, right now, from everywhere I've traveled, New Orleans is definitely my favorite. I do want to go to like Savannah and Charleston and stuff like that too. But I did not bring stitching along. I was actually doing embroidery at that point, and I wished I would have brought it along because we got delayed because Minnesota was having a ginormous snowstorm.
Oh, geez.
And then when we finally did get in, we had to get a hotel because nobody could get to us.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, oh, it would have been nice, but no, I didn't bring stitching.
That would have been prime, like killing time hobby.
Oh, I know for sure.
So what can you not do without for your stitching? Like your favorite go-to must-have besides the basics, of course.
Yeah. I would say my iPad, and then I have a Kindle 10. I never stitch with paper anymore, ever. Everything is on my iPad. I scan it in. I have a really good scanner onto a flash drive, put it on my Amazon drive, download it to GoodNotes, or, download it to the Kindle and put it in Pattern Keeper if it's compatible. I never use paper anymore. I never use highlighters. And so I would say I literally can't go without that.
I'm right there with you. Everything is on my iPad, and then I bought a cheap Kindle too for Pattern Keeper, full covered. So yeah, 100%. Yeah. I can't look at a paper pattern anymore.
I think the thing, and it was actually one of your suggestions, when I started Winter White Santa from Mira, I was like, what the heck? I can't even make a copy of this. Like, how do I make a copy and tape things together? Like, what do I do? And then you're like, well, I take a picture and put it on my iPad. And I'm like, well, that's a good idea. And then, so what I did with that one is I took it to FedEx, scanned it as a PDF. And then, I took made a copy of it, brought it home, because I had to make a copy of one side and the other, brought it home, cut it out, taped it together, brought it back and scanned it in, and then put it on my iPad. And yeah, it was a process for that one, but I would do it again.
With my Mira, I just took a picture of like the top part and the bottom part, and then I just have two separate ones because I'm
yeah,
taping it all together and all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
definitely have to try the picture thing next time.
I love doing it. And it's, it's instant too, which is kind of nice, but
yeah,
you have to make sure that you're able to see everything and there's not shading or anything like that, or shadowing.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I love that. There are still a lot of people that use patterns though. I like how they like stick them on their fabric with like the magnets and all that kind of stuff. And they just have it right there, but can't do it.
I can't either, just because you can blow it up again. Eye strain.
Right?
I don't have time for eye strain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is kind of interesting one. I like to see how
Stop. No. Oh, she knows what she's not supposed to, and no.
Love it. So how do you decide on what you're going to work on next for your
well, like I said, I did 25/7 and I'm doing Whip Go. And this is the first year I've ever done anything like challenge related. And I'm finding out that I don't really like it. Like, I don't like the pressure that I put on myself. Nobody else is putting that pressure on me. Like, you got to get your Whip Go done, or you got to do this. But I'm finding that it makes me not want to work on things if I feel like I'm pressured to do it. And so I'm kind of like, I've kind of been keeping up with Whip Go. I have a couple that are outstanding. And I actually I did enjoy 25/7 because I got so much progress on Aurora Cabin, but I basically just stitch what I want when I want, right? If I really want to finish something, I'll pull it out. And that's kind of what Whip Go has helped me with. Like, I just finished Tomato Dame, and but I don't want it to stress me out. I don't want it to ever feel like it's a chore. And I've kind of realized that over the last couple of months that I don't think that's for me, and that's okay.
No, 100% it's okay. I tried doing like the wheel and stuff like that, and I'm the same way. It's just I don't like being under the gun to try to finish something or the wheel would tell me to stitch something. I'm like, I really don't feel like stitching that today.
Oh, thanks.
No, I totally get that. A lot
Yeah.
of people I think over the interviews that I've done, there's a small handful of people that actually have like a routine or like a schedule for the majority of us are just kind of stitch what you want, when you want, what's calling to you kind of thing. So
Exactly.
so we are down to the last question, and this is my
Fast.
favorite. So it is, what's the best thing that has happened to you within the past couple of years?
Um, so as I talked about earlier, we lived in Michigan. So we are originally from this area. We both went to high school, graduated here. My husband went to college here. And then when Michael was, because we have a son, Michael, he's 25 now, and then Grace will be 22 on July 1st. When they're very young, I think Grace was like a year and a half.
Mhm.
So Michael would have been like 3.5. We moved to Michigan. My husband got a job there, and we lived there for 12 years. We enjoyed it. It was a great experience. We wouldn't trade that for anything, but it got to the point where we're like, Jeff's parents were getting old. Like I said earlier, they were aging. They were older when they had him, and missing a lot of time with them and my family and my sisters, like, because I'm really close with my sisters, like I said. And so then we decided we wanted to move back to Minnesota, and we moved to Mankato, Minnesota. That's where my husband got a job. And then, excuse me, then I got a job. And then in the fall of 2019, yes, 2019, we decided like, we have to move back to central Minnesota where everybody is. Like, it's only 2 hours away, but it's 2 hours away. And so my husband started looking for a job, and he got a job pretty quickly. I was able to keep my job, and I work remotely. So I'm super thankful for that, because I literally love my job so much. And, but with that, like when Grace graduated, she moved to Duluth, Minnesota for college. And then our son, or then we moved up here, and Grace was still in Duluth. Michael was still in Mankato. And so the middle of May, they both actually, and it wasn't even planned this way, they both actually moved to this area. So literally we're all together again.
That is so cool.
Yeah, like yesterday I was able to go to TJ Maxx and Home Goods with my daughter. We had so much fun, and our son spent the weekend with us at our camper. And like before, they're adults, they're on their own, they have their own lives, and we actually downsized a lot, which is another good thing. We are in a 2-bedroom patio home now. One's my office craft room, one's our bedroom. So nobody's moving back in with us. Let's be real about that. I'm one of those like, yeah, empty nesting is great. But I think that's just the biggest thing, is that now we're all together again. We're near family. Yeah. Everybody that's, in this area, most everybody, with the exception of one of Jeff's sisters, lives in the other side of South Dakota. But yeah, so it's just been so awesome to be back in this area, and we're never leaving now.
I mean, it's great to have family so close. I'm hoping, because my oldest daughter just graduated with her bachelor's, and I'm scared of where she's going to go, but I hope she comes back.
I know. I was actually worried about that for a while too, because she like talked a lot about wanting to live in Portland, wanting to move to Portland and in Oregon, and obviously, and Jeff and I like, but like we moved to Michigan, like right. You can make your own decisions if that's where work brings you or whatever. She actually hasn't graduated from college yet. She took a couple years off because she didn't know what she wanted to do. And the debt from University of Michigan Duluth was already ridiculous. And now she actually is back in school. So she has a couple of years left, but who knows where it'll bring them. But now we're in the position where we can travel. So if she goes to Portland, I get to see you. So
acorns and threads.
yeah. I know they'll be like, my first stop. I don't even want to see you first. I want to go acorns and threads.
Threads. I'll just be down there with you. That's all. That's so great that you have family so close, because you know, especially during hard times like what we've gone through, having family close by, I'm sure was a blessing for sure.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I don't take it for granted ever anymore.
Nice. Well, that is the end of the interview.
Wow, that was fun.
A lot of fun. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with me. I know we talked quite a bit before we started recording.
Yeah. I'm just, I'm thankful that you asked me to do this. I'm like, this is awesome. This will be fun. Mostly because then I got to talk to you verbally,
Message, and that's basically how we talk. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. So thank you so much. We learned a lot more about you, and hopefully we'll get more subscribers your way too as well, which will be pretty cool.
That would be cool. I want to hit 2,000 so I can give things away.
Stand into 2,000. All right, let's say bye to everybody on Flosstube.
Bye, everybody.